live in Studio B. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. Lofty words for Kevin Young. Hasn't coached a game yet, but he's already taking on this pseudo-hero status for what he's done for BYU in the recruiting realm, not just with players, but with his coaching staff as well. To discuss all of that, we welcome in longtime ESPN college basketball insider and a college basketball standout once upon a time at UCLA. He is Sean Farnham, back on BYUSN. Sean, what's on your mind this morning? How are you?
Nothing. You guys are ruining my Madden game, so I'll just put that on pause real quick. It's off-season Farnham mode. I got my hat on, I got my video games playing, and I got to talk to you two guys. All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
It's the hardest thing you'll do all day.
We're talking hoop in June? What are we doing here?
I know. Well, Kevin Young has made it a reality for BYU fans.
We have a daily show, Sean.
Yeah, you guys do a great job with it, by the way. You know, just the continuation of the energy and the passion which you bring is similar to what Coach Young has brought to BYU since he's arrived on campus.
All right, Sean, of everything that has happened since Mark Pope departed for Kentucky and BYU hired Kevin Young, what has impressed you the most or maybe surprised you the most about how BYU has rallied the troops and held a core together under Kevin Young?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a challenge to rally the troops under somebody that could have very easily been an NBA head coach. Like, I think the starting point is BYU got a man that's going to coach their team that was destined to be a head coach in the NBA. Could have been last year. Certainly, I think would have been in the realm of discussion for a lot of the openings that are currently available in the NBA right now. And oh, by the way, he gets to bring the cachet of, I work with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. With him to the recruiting trail. And I think that that's something that has cut through, and we've seen that resonate already in the way that he's put his roster construction, the tentacles of BYU, the power of BYU to reach far and wide, to bring in a recruiting class and grouping, whether it's transfers, whether it's international, or whether it's domestic recruits. That I think has solidified BYU's roster to be a highly competitive roster in what will be an even more competitive Big 12 than it was a season ago.
BYU seemingly recruiting at a different level thanks to Kevin Young's not only network and experience, but just what he brings to the table, right? And what you mentioned. There's a certain recruit whose name we can't mention. Others have mentioned him from Russia.
Can I mention him?
You can.
Am I allowed to mention him? Because I don't want to get any, I know it's a gray area.
You can, but we cannot. That kind of guy has never come to BYU, who's not a member of the church, not from Utah, has no ties, but he wants to get to the NBA, and he believes in what Kevin Young can do for him. What does that kind of signing of that kind of guy mean for a program like BYU?
That guy is really good, by the way. I'll just stay with that guy so that nobody gets in trouble here. But that guy, if you haven't looked on YouTube, if you haven't gone, I have an account on Synergy, so I can go back and watch every single game he's ever played. He's a pro. Like, he flat out is a pro. With his size, 6'8", 6'9", his ability to pass, his athleticism, his aggressiveness, he's a tenacious defensive player. He's got the potential to be a lottery pick. And you're right. You haven't seen that guy show up at BYU. You haven't. And specifically when not a member of the church. And so to be able to go out internationally and get that caliber of player, I think that opens up the door, not only, especially if it goes well, for not only for him, but for other players to follow in that same likeness, which expands the recruiting base. And I think that's something that Mark Pope was very much so aware that was a necessity. And I think that when you look at the Big 12 and the fact that the Big 12's depth and strength and the overall number of programs, like Cincinnati's had a great offseason, by the way. Wes Miller's, their roster construction is really good, and they're going to be very strong next year as well. And that goes with the top of the conference and the knowns in which we expect to see in the Big 12 in particular. But I think for BYU to be there on a year-in and year-out basis, the recruiting pool has to expand. The type of player that sees BYU as a destination has to expand. And I think Coach Young has done a tremendous job of that in this recruiting and roster construction period of time. And I think that player is going to be an absolute star at the college level. And I do believe that if it goes right, and I think there's no reason to believe it won't, if it goes right, there will be others that follow in the same footsteps and see this as a pathway to get to the NBA. Now, I don't anticipate him being in Provo very, very long. I would say 1 year. That's how good he is. He could be a lottery pick next year. So with that being said, enjoy him while he's there, celebrate, and try to build him up as much as possible within the community, within that team, and celebrate his stardom. Because if it works out right, it's going to continue to lead to more players coming down that pipeline, which will help stabilize BYU at the level that it needs to be in order to compete in the Big 12. You know, this is not the Mountain West. It's not the WCC. You look at the additions of schools like Arizona coming in now, and they might not be done with adding more programs into the Big 12, whether it's over the next couple of years or not. But you add Arizona into Houston, into BYU, into Baylor, into Kansas, into Iowa. I mean, like, it is a gauntlet. It is loaded, and every game is going to be difficult, and every game is going to be a challenge. You need stars. And if you don't have stars, it makes it a lot more difficult. Like last year was lightning in a bottle for BYU. And my concern for BYU was sustainability based on how they played and the success they had a season ago. Were they going to be able to sustain that over an extended period of time inside the Big 12? And I think what Coach Young has brought to the table right now is that, yeah, he understands the kind of roster that he needs to have. I think the support from everybody that is associated with BYU has been there and has allowed him to make sure that his message has been clear, and it's been resonating with a lot of different players. And I think that I think he not only has lottery picks in this draft, but I think he has guys that are also going to be future pros. There's a young man that was originally committed to USC that I think is going to be a bona fide. Can we say his name?
Yeah, we can say his name, Brody Kozlowski.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I just don't want people getting in trouble. Brody is a floor spacer for his size, and he is a physical rebounder. He's got a great motor. I think the upside for a guy like Brody is going to be huge. And I think the reason I bring him up is twofold. Is one, you can internationally hit home runs, time and time again, but you still need to be able to recruit your state. And you still need to get the best players out of your state, your geographical footprint, to resonate a lot of times with people. And Brody is just that. He's a Utah kid who had a great high school career. He's a winner. He's won every step along the way. I know USC was very excited to have him under Andy Enfield. Obviously, coaching change there, and the trickle-down impact of that whole situation now brings him to BYU. And I think he's a young man that's going to take some time. But I think he is going to develop and has the potential when he's done at BYU to maybe be an NBA player. And I think that when you start putting a roster together to compete inside the Big 12, it's really hard to compete for championships if you don't have guys that can compete at an NBA level.
ESPN's Sean Farnham on BYU Sports Nation, a man who only plays Madden at the all-pro level. He also discusses basketball at an all-pro level.
Can we talk? I was mentioning this off air. You all need to get Kevin Connors in, my guy Kevin Connors. He's the voice of college football.
Bills Mafia!
I mean, and he's Bills Mafia, so why would you not love him? But you need to get him on because is there anything more highly anticipated this summer? I mean, other than this roster that's been constructed for BYU basketball, than the arrival of EA Sports College Football 25?
Can't wait.
We do need to get Kevin Connors on the show. That's a great idea. We're putting in the request. We may use you to make that happen, Sean, if you're willing.
I know people. Go ahead. What's your next question?
You got it. On paper, Jarom and I were just discussing this the other day on the show about raw talent. It feels like BYU is a more talented team right now under Kevin Young than they were last year. Chemistry and cohesion matter a lot in the college game. How far off is BYU as a team overall, even if they are more talented right now on paper than they were compared to last year's team?
I think better depth inside, obviously. That's been addressed with a couple of the transfers. You have better depth in the interior. I think you have a more talented player than anybody that was on the roster last year, and that includes Jackson Robinson, with that guy that we were just talking about that you guys aren't allowed to talk about. I think the roster's deeper. I think it's as talented. I think the returning components are huge. Getting guys like Richie back was huge. Dallin back is huge because there's some synergy and some chemistry that is already put into place, understanding how BYU does it. Now, obviously, it's how they do it is going to be very different under Coach Young. So you're learning a brand new system. So there's going to be some growing pains. The verbiage that is used by Coach Young is probably different than the verbiage that's used by Coach Pope and his coaching staff. So within that, there will be some growing pains. This roster, by the way, can also improve and finish 7th in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, legitimately.
I mean, it's just the way it is. And I think that's the challenge for BYU fans, is to understand that the roster can be better. You can have a team that actually has better success in the NCAA tournament potentially, but you might finish lower inside the Big 12. And that's kind of where the Big 12 is a gauntlet. And that's where the challenges lie, because this conference isn't laying down. I mean, again, I brought up Cincinnati, but go look at the fact that Caleb Love is back at Arizona. Like, Arizona's not going anywhere. You know, there's the depth of this conference has just continued to get stronger. It has not gotten weaker. Texas Tech has improved their roster with JT Toppin, who was at the NBA Combine that I was at a couple of weeks ago, and now he's going to Texas Tech. I don't know if we can say that. We'll just say that guy is transferring from New Mexico to Texas Tech. But there's the depth of this conference and the star power of this conference, because what it's done is the top tier of this conference has separated itself so much that how we looked at the ACC is now how we look at the Big 12. Like, we used to look at the ACC with the great depth and the top tier teams that had a chance to win national championships. You look at the way too early top 25. There's like 4 Big 12 teams in the top 10.
Yeah.
So again, this is where I say Coach Young's team could be better, more talented, deeper, and maybe even have more tournament success, and yet still finish in a worse position in the Big 12. If that makes sense.
And that'd be just fine, honestly. If you told me right now BYU finishes 7th, I would take it. I want to see the games, of course, but I think that would be tremendous, especially in year one. You alluded to.
I just want Big 12 eats with you again. Like,
that was fun, right?
Like the food coma that you and I went through, like as we ate all those different food concoctions that they came up with at the Big 12 tournament, and it actually helped me. I just want to let you know it actually helped me, because while I was there, like on set, I'd be really hungry, and then like I'd be like, you know what I want, and I knew exactly what I wanted from the stand because I'd already sampled it with you. So I'd like to. Can we run that back again this year in Kansas City?
The delicatessens were tremendous. Yeah. It was great, and the low key orange creamsicle from UCF.
Very solid.
The citronaut something or other. It was great.
I don't know. I want that back though. If I could learn how to make that at home in the off season, outside of playing Madden, that would probably be the second thing I'd do.
Dude, it was just vanilla and orange soda. It's simple. You can put it together.
All right.
Come on. Okay.
I'll work on it.
So you alluded to some of this. If BYU finishes 7th, that'd be tremendous. But yeah, what are expectations in year one? Because this is certainly a talented roster, but it's a first-year coach in college in the toughest league in America. How much leeway should BYU fans give Kevin Young and time to kind of figure it out? And what should the expectations be?
Expectations should be high. They should be high. And I think it starts with that. And I think Coach Young would tell you he wants expectations to be high. Now, he's going to temper those expectations based on the learning curve. And I think that's why this summer could be as important as any summer in BYU basketball history, based on the fact that the execution, the understanding of what he needs and what he requires this team to do has to be put into place over those summer workouts. And so your hope is that when you start up in the fall, after you're done and concluded your summer workouts, that everybody understands what their role is, what they have to do in order to be successful, and that there's not this, okay, we got to slow down the process and let's start the slow build back up here in the fall because you guys have forgotten some of the things that we taught you over the course of summer. You need that retention from the summer workouts to carry through to the fall workouts. I would say because of the age of this roster and some of those components, I don't think that it's going to be something they're going to struggle with. I would anticipate them picking up things pretty quickly here and then allowing them to hit the ground running when they get back to the fall. Because once you start in the fall, it's all systems go. And I think that there's going to be a couple components to Coach Young. I think skill development, individual skill development is going to be huge. I think when you look at guys in the NBA, the individual workout stuff that they do, the preparation, how they do things differently than the college game, there are certain programs across the country that use more of an NBA kind of embodiment in how they play. I think Alabama Nate Oates comes to mind really with how he utilized the analytics that the NBA has used in order to be successful at the college level. I do anticipate some of that similar kind of usage of NBA stuff, hybrid in with obviously the college talent. There's certain things that Kevin Durant can do that Richie Saunders cannot do. And I'm just
and vice versa.
and definitely vice versa. But you look at it and you understand that there's a difference in talent. You understand that there's a difference in experience. And so it's going to be a hybrid and we're moving it in. I think Coach Young's going to be outstanding. I'm so excited when they made this hire, and I know we hadn't talked, and I was supposed to come on one time, but I couldn't because of scheduling after he was hired. I mean, it's a home run grand slam hire. And you've already seen that pay off in the way that they've recruited and how they've reached out and expanded that recruiting base. Now it just comes down to him doing what he does best, and that's coaching hoop, loving hoop. You talk to everybody at the combine. I was talking to people. I was talking to Woj. I said, Woj, how good is Coach Young? Sean, easily could have been a head coach in the NBA. Easily. So you look at that and you're like, okay, you got a guy that could have been a head coach in the NBA coaching in the Big 12 at BYU. Like, BYU fans should be like, let's go. Coach Young should be like, let's go. And these players should be like, I am a sponge. Fill me up with as much as I possibly can hold and retain. And I think if there's any player that looks at this coaching staff or looks at Coach Young and goes, well, we didn't do that way last year. Like, I would be like, just run, go. I'll see you in 45 minutes. And that's nothing against Coach Pope, but like, you got to buy into what's being asked of you now. And you have to retain what's being asked of you now. You have to use the words that are going to be used at practice by this coaching staff now. And the quicker that they unselfishly give into that, I think you will get out of it more of what BYU fans are hoping to see when the college hoop season begins in November.
Sean Farnham technically in the offseason, but his analysis very much in midseason form. Sean, great to talk with you, man. Let's do it again soon, and good luck with the rest of your Madden game.
One question before I jump back on to Madden. Cougar Tails, during the summer, there's no sporting event for them to be sold at. So do they just stop production?
It's a good question.
They get them to the fan fests, so maybe we just need to have a fan fest in your neighborhood, and we'll make that happen.
Don't tell anybody, but they did take it out of state.
They did what?
They took it to Phoenix.
They took it to Phoenix.
Yeah.
They had the Cougar Tail in Phoenix.
Did they have it in Dallas when we were there?
They did have it in Dallas.
Okay, nobody tell Sean. Okay.
You guys tell Tyson he's fired. Tyson, he is fired. That this is blasphemy. That if we can have Cougar Tails in Phoenix, if we can have Cougar Tails, where else was it? In Texas?
Yeah. Dallas, yeah.
We can't have Cougar Tails brought to me at, whether it be the WCC tournament 2 years ago, whether it's the Big 12 tournament.
You need the BYU store, Official Outfitter, BYU fans everywhere, and the Creamer. You need those powers that be, right? You need those.
We're on it, Sean.
Yeah.
We're on it. Get us Kevin Connors, and we'll work on that.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands. The box is a great idea.
Yeah.
While I'm not on the box, you guys aren't on the box, I'm okay with that. Because if it keeps the maple on the actual donut and not on the bag,
yep.
Now we've improved the overall quality of the Cougar Tail. It's kind of like the roster for Coach Young.
Yes.
It's an improved roster for Coach Young, like the Cougar Tail box has improved the Cougar Tail itself.
Sure. Takes some time for fans to get used to it, but ultimately it will be way better.
Right, guys, I got to win this fourth quarter, so I'm going to go now. All right, but, wow, man, okay, good. I reconnected. Okay, I was concerned that I was disconnected. I'll talk to you guys later.
Happy maddening. Thanks, Sean.
See you, Sean.